Welcome back to our channel, soap fans. Today is a beautiful day to dive into the most explosive drama Los Angeles has ever seen. Grab your favorite drink and brace yourselves, because the upcoming episodes are guaranteed to leave you absolutely speechless. Let's get straight into the heart-pounding action. A single, devastating punch. A live broadcast that detonates a decades-old family legacy. The relentless, inevitable collision of fate and high-stakes consequences is finally here. The war between the Forresters and the Spencers has just crossed a terrifying, bloody line, and there is absolutely no turning back. The flashing cameras. The glaring studio lights. The heavy, suffocating silence of anticipation. Eric Forrester, the legendary patriarch, sits down for what is supposed to be a triumphant, celebratory interview about his highly anticipated couture line drop. The world is watching. The fashion industry is holding its collective breath. But instead of focusing on the exquisite fabrics, the groundbreaking designs, or the glorious return of Forrester creations to the absolute pinnacle of high fashion, Eric goes completely rogue. The simmering, toxic resentment that has been boiling in his veins for weeks finally erupts on live television. The reporter, Sienna, asks a seemingly innocent question about the competition, and that is the exact moment the Forrester patriarch loses his ironclad composure. His face reddens. His voice trembles with a volatile mixture of heartbreak and absolute fury. He stares directly into the camera lens, fully aware that millions of people are watching, and he unleashes a blistering, unforgiving attack on Logan Designs. He does not mince words. He does not hold back. He struggles to maintain his composure, his voice cracking with raw emotion as he brands Katie Logan Spencer and Hope Logan Spencer as absolute thieves. "It's thievery," he roars, his voice echoing through the studio, shattering the polished, professional facade of the Forrester empire and exposing the deep, festering wounds of family betrayal to the entire world. Across town, inside the sleek, modern offices of Logan Designs, the atmosphere instantly turns to ice. Katie Logan Spencer and Hope Logan Spencer sit frozen in front of a massive flat-screen monitor, watching the livestream in absolute, paralyzed horror. Their jaws literally drop. The color violently drains from their faces. The triumphant high of their recent fashion success is instantly obliterated by the crushing weight of Eric's public condemnation. Katie's eyes widen as she watches the man she once deeply respected, the man who once championed her dreams, publicly assassinate her character and her company. The sheer magnitude of the fallout is instantaneous, and Katie feels a sudden, suffocating wave of intense regret washing over her. The thrill of victory turns to ash in her mouth as she realizes the catastrophic damage she has caused. The shockwaves of Eric's explosive interview ripple violently across the city, crashing directly into Will Spencer. Will, already spiraling from his agonizing breakup with Electra Forrester and the suffocating pressure of the family war, watches the broadcast and completely loses his mind. Seeing his mother publicly humiliated, branded a thief by the Forrester patriarch, ignites a feral, uncontrollable rage deep within his chest. He storms out, seeking refuge and liquid courage at the bikini bar. The alcohol burns down his throat, fueling the toxic fire of vengeance and heartbreak. He is a ticking time bomb, highly intoxicated, reckless, and desperate to reclaim some sense of control. When Electra Forrester is near, Will is aggressive and completely unhinged, utterly devastated by the loss of the woman he loves, yet entirely incapable of expressing it without toxic aggression. The situation rapidly deteriorates when the heavy wooden doors of the bikini bar swing open, revealing Eric Forrester and his fiercely protective grandson, RJ Forrester. They track the commotion down, and Eric is in no mood to tolerate a Spencer, especially not after the explosive events of the day. Eric marches directly up to Will, his authority radiating through the room. He issues a stern, uncompromising command: Will must stay away from Electra. He orders the young Spencer to back off, to leave his family alone, and to walk away. But Will, blinded by alcohol and blinding fury, refuses to bow to the Forrester king. He sneers at Eric, his voice dripping with venom and disrespect. He tells the patriarch that he will do whatever he wants regarding Electra. The sheer audacity of the insult hangs in the air, a verbal slap to the face of the man who built an empire. RJ Forrester snaps. Hearing his grandfather, the man he reveres above all others, being blatantly disrespected by a drunken Spencer is a line crossed. RJ's protective instincts take over, morphing instantly into violent aggression. He lunges forward with terrifying speed. He grabs Will violently by the shirt collar, the fabric tearing as the two young men collide. The physical altercation is instantaneous and brutal. Fists fly. Tables are shoved aside. Glasses shatter on the floor, the sound of breaking glass echoing the shattering of any remaining peace between the two warring families. Will and RJ are locked in a vicious, animalistic struggle, trading blows fueled by weeks of simmering hatred, jealousy over Elektra, and the toxic legacy of their warring fathers. The patrons of the Bikini Bar scream and scatter as the brawl escalates into a full-blown, destructive riot. Seeing the situation spiraling completely out of control, Eric Forrester makes a fateful, disastrous decision. Driven by a desperate need to protect his grandson and end the violence, the senior citizen steps directly into the chaotic, swirling melee. He wedges himself between the two brawling young men, raising his hands, shouting for them to cease. But the momentum of the fight is too powerful. The rage is too blind. In the chaotic blur of flying fists and grappling bodies, Will Spencer pulls his arm back for a devastating strike. Eric steps forward to intercept. The sickening, bone-crunching sound of Will's fist connecting with Eric Forrester's face echoes through the sudden, horrifying silence of the bar. The patriarch stumbles backward, the sheer force of the blow knocking the wind out of him, leaving him severely injured. The optics are absolutely brutal. A young, entitled Spencer heir has just physically assaulted the legendary, elderly patriarch of the Forrester family. The consequences will be apocalyptic. Will freezes, his knuckles aching, the alcohol suddenly clearing from his mind as he realizes the absolute, unforgivable magnitude of what he has just done. He just injured Eric Forrester. The news of the assault spreads like wildfire, reaching Katie Logan Spencer and shattering her completely. The guilt that had been simmering since the press conference now boils over into pure, unadulterated panic and sorrow. Her son has physically injured Eric. It is a nightmare come to life. Desperate, terrified, and drowning in regret, Katie rushes to the Forrester estate to try and make things right. Katie bursts through the doors of the Forrester mansion, her eyes frantically searching for Eric. She finds him battered and bruised, with Donna Logan Forrester hovering over him, fiercely protective. Katie completely breaks down. Tears stream down her face as she delivers a highly emotional, desperate apology, her voice trembling with raw emotion. She begs for forgiveness, trying desperately to explain that this violence, this hatred, is not what she wanted. In a shocking, unprecedented turn of events, Eric and Katie begin to talk. They discuss the painful past, the misunderstandings, the ruthless business moves that led them to this bloody climax. Slowly, miraculously, Katie extends an olive branch, attempting to forge a fragile peace treaty to save the broken family dynamics before it is too late. While Katie desperately tries to mend fences, Melissa Dillon sees the chaos as the ultimate opportunity. Will Spencer is at his absolute lowest. He is facing the wrath of the Forrester family, the devastating loss of Elektra, and the crushing guilt of his violent actions. He is vulnerable, broken, and drowning in self-loathing. Will is clearly going to get much worse before he gets better. Dillon, entirely disregarding her supposed friendship with Elektra, watches Will's downward spiral with calculated, predatory eyes. She knows that Will is spiraling, and she intends to be the one to catch him when he falls. She tracks him down, pouring on the charm, and making bold, aggressive moves on the vulnerable Spencer heir despite her bestie's wishes. Dillon is playing a highly dangerous game of romantic roulette, playing to win no matter who gets destroyed. In the shadows of Los Angeles, a far more sinister and deadly threat is rapidly escalating. Sheila is putting on an absolute masterclass in deception. To the outside world, she is putting on a good act, presenting herself as a reformed, compliant woman who just wants peace. But behind closed doors, Sheila is privately going down a very dark, dangerous path. The mask is slipping. The psychotic, obsessive predator is reawakening. Her ultimate target remains unchanged, John Finn Finnegan and her grandson, Hayes. She is meticulously plotting her next move, manipulating Finn with a sickeningly sweet facade of maternal love and redemption. She is relentlessly obsessing over gaining access to her family, operating just out of sight like a lethal predator stalking its prey. Sheila's manipulation works flawlessly on the men in her life. Finn, completely blinded by his delusional hope, actively advocates for Sheila, believing she has truly changed. Deacon Sharp, equally manipulated by her act, joins Finn in advocating for her redemption. They both push for Sheila to be allowed back into the fold. But they severely underestimate Steffy Forrester Finnegan. Steffy's reaction to this advocacy is instantaneous and apocalyptic. There is absolutely no way Steffy will allow Sheila to have access to her family. The sheer, unadulterated terror and fury that explodes from Steffy is world-ending. She absolutely, unequivocally refuses, standing as a fierce, impenetrable fortress protecting her children from the monster who nearly killed them. Steffy is now on full, terrifying alert. She realizes that Sheila is actively infiltrating her husband's mind and manipulating Deacon. Driven by a fierce, maternal need to protect her family, Steffy goes on the offensive. She knows that Deacon's lingering connection to Sheila is a massive liability. In a desperate, ruthless move, Steffy confronts Taylor Hayes and pushes her to dump Deacon immediately. She demands that Taylor sever all ties with the man, arguing that anyone connected to Sheila is a direct threat to their safety. But untangling Taylor from Deacon is easier said than done, as their romance has already crossed deeply passionate lines. The web of secrets, lies, and dangerous liaisons is tightening, and Steffy is desperately trying to cut the strings before Sheila can strike. The tension is unbearable. Sheila is continuing her relentless, obsessive campaign to get closer to Finn and Hayes, and her dark path is leading directly toward a violent, catastrophic confrontation. While Finn and Deacon blindly champion her fake redemption, Steffy stands as the lone, fierce guardian at the gate. But Steffy cannot be everywhere at once. The burning question remains, will someone else notice that Sheila is dangerously off before it is too late? Will someone catch a glimpse of the crazed, murderous glint in her eye before she unleashes her next reign of terror? Meanwhile, Remy Price is making his own calculated moves, trying desperately to get closer to Deke Sharp. Remy's unpredictable obsession adds another volatile layer of suspense to an already explosive landscape. Every single character is standing on the precipice of total disaster, and the slightest push will send them all tumbling into the abyss. Will Katie's fragile olive branch survive the brutal fallout of Will's violence, or is the Forrester-Spencer war destined to end in total destruction? Next. The crashing waves of the Pacific Ocean violently batter the coastline below the Forrester Cliff House, providing a terrifyingly accurate reflection of the catastrophic storm currently ripping through the marriage of Steffy Forrester and John Finnegan. The ultimate collision of fate and high-stakes consequences is no longer a distant threat, it is standing right at the front door. Sheila Carter has masterfully positioned herself on the chessboard, executing a psychological manipulation so brilliant and sinister that it threatens to tear the Forrester and Finnegan families apart forever. The impossible is rapidly becoming a terrifying reality. Sheila is dangerously close to securing permanent, unfiltered contact with her son, Finn, and her grandson, Hayes. John Finnegan stands at the precipice of the greatest, most lethal mistake of his entire life. The brilliant, life-saving doctor is fundamentally incapable of diagnosing the terminal toxicity of his own biological mother. Finn looks into Sheila's eyes and does not see the monster who gunned him down in a cold alleyway. Instead, he sees redemption. He believes, with every fiber of his being, that he has witnessed a profound, miraculous change in the woman who gave birth to him. The biological pull is a deafening siren song, dragging Finn toward the jagged rocks of Sheila's deception. He is actively, desperately advocating for her to be allowed back into their lives, completely blinded to the catastrophic danger he is inviting into his home. Steffy Forrester Finnegan remains an impenetrable, unyielding fortress of absolute defiance. She is entirely unconvinced by Sheila's supposed miraculous transformation. For Steffy, this is not a mere disagreement over family dynamics, this is a brutal, daily battle for survival. Steffy's post-traumatic stress disorder is a living, breathing entity, a shield forged in the fires of near-death experiences. Every single time she closes her eyes, she hears the echoing crack of the gunshot. She feels the cold, unforgiving asphalt. She smells the metallic scent of blood. Steffi recently cited her severe PTSD as the leading, non-negotiable reason why she cannot, and will not, ever be around Sheila Carter again. The psychological warfare inside the Cliff House has reached an apocalyptic fever pitch. Steffi looks at her husband and sees a man blindly walking back into the arms of his executioner. She refuses to allow her trauma to be invalidated by Finn's naive desperation for a mother's love. Steffi has drawn the ultimate line in the sand, issuing a lethal ultimatum that has shaken the very foundation of their marriage. She has forced Finn into an impossible corner, demanding that he choose between the woman he married and the woman who gave birth to him. There is no compromise. There is no middle ground. Steffi's life, and the lives of her precious children, depend entirely on Finn making the right choice before it is too late. Enter Taylor Hayes and Deacon Sharp, the architects of their own moral bankruptcy. In a shocking, twisted turn of events, Taylor and the previously married man she had a scandalous affair with are now actively agreeing with Finn. Much to Steffi's absolute chagrin and utter disgust, her own mother is championing the cause of the woman who nearly orchestrated her murder. This is a catastrophic lapse in judgment, fueled entirely by a toxic cocktail of guilt and self-preservation. Taylor and Deacon are drowning in the consequences of their illicit romance, a betrayal conducted in the shadows that ultimately led to Deacon's now granted marital dissolution request. To assuage their own guilty consciences, Taylor and Deacon have become the most dangerous, unlikely advocates for Sheila Carter. They have wronged Sheila, and in their desperate, pathetic attempt to clear their karmic debt, they are willing to sacrifice Steffi's safety. Taylor, a world-renowned psychiatrist, is willfully ignoring every glaring red flag and every diagnostic criterion of a violent psychopath. She is grateful to Sheila for not blocking Deacon's divorce request and genuinely believes that her fellow grandmother deserves a measured benefit of the doubt. Steffi is left reeling, completely horrified that her mother's illicit affair has blinded her to the lethal threat lurking just outside their door. Ridge Forrester, the fiercely protective patriarch, stands firmly by his daughter's side. He sees the imminent threat. He knows the lethal danger that Sheila poses. But Ridge's powerful voice has been entirely neutralized in this vicious, escalating debate. Why? Because of his own sordid history of romantic betrayal. When Ridge broke his engagement to Taylor to remarry Brooke Logan, he permanently forfeited his moral high ground. He shattered Taylor's heart, and that past betrayal is now being weaponized against him in the present. Ridge sees this catastrophic issue from a completely different angle, but his opinion is entirely blocked by the twisted, circular logic of his past actions. The lack of Taylor's backing for Steffi is directly tied to her desperate need to validate her relationship with Deacon, and Ridge's past sins prevent him from effectively intervening. Taylor looks at Ridge and sees a hypocrite, refusing to accept his counsel on matters of the heart or family safety. The Forrester patriarch is reduced to a frustrated, enraged spectator in a war he desperately wants to fight, unable to protect his daughter from the impending doom because his own romantic history has silenced his authority. But the true, explosive wildcard in this catastrophic equation is none other than Dr. Lee Finnegan. Viewers were recently reintroduced to the fierce, uncompromising Lee when she stood by Daphne Walton during a devastating, heartbreaking hospital appointment. Lee's unexpected presence in that medical sequence was not a mere coincidence, it was a highly calculated, strategic placement on the narrative chessboard. Lee Finnegan's role is about to become the ultimate deciding factor in the vicious war for Finn's soul, and her involvement could completely obliterate Steffi's line of defense. Unlike Taylor, who views Sheila through a pathetic lens of romantic guilt, Lee shares a bizarre, twisted, and deeply complex history of survival with Sheila. During the darkest days of Finn's recovery, when Lee was secretly keeping him alive, she and Sheila developed a strange, almost incomprehensible mutual respect. They are both fiercely protective mothers who have gone to unimaginable extremes for the son they share. This decent, underlying friendship, or at least, mutual understanding, stands in stark contrast to Taylor's perspective. Lee did not see Sheila merely as a monster, she saw her as a desperate mother. This terrifying dynamic facilitates Lee becoming much more easily involved in the rapidly developing disagreement between Finn and Steffi. It is highly probable that Lee will shockingly side with Finn, looking Steffi dead in the eye and asserting that she, too, recognizes Sheila's profound growth. If Lee throws her considerable weight behind Finn's delusion, Steffi will be completely outnumbered. The family ties binding these three grandmothers, Steffi's mother, Finn's adoptive mother, and Finn's biological mother, are tightening like a noose. The ultimate battle lines are being drawn, and Steffi Forrester Finnegan is finding herself entirely surrounded by enemies masquerading as family. No one but Sheila Carter put herself in the precarious position she is currently in. She is the sole architect of her own misery, a woman who has left a horrific trail of bodies, blood, and shattered lives in her wake. Steffi has every single right in the world to fear an impending catastrophe. Sheila has tried to violently murder Steffi on multiple occasions. She has inflicted unspeakable trauma on the Forrester family, and she has ruthlessly ended the lives of others who dared to stand in her way. Steffi's PTSD is not an overreaction, it is a highly accurate, necessary survival mechanism designed to keep a lethal predator at bay. Finn remains the most important, grounding influence in Steffi's life. He is the love of her life, the father of her children, and the man she fought her way back from the brink of death to be with. Therefore, the absolute ultimatum that she issued to her husband, choosing her or choosing Sheila, will either have to be relentlessly pressed or tragically amended. Steffi cannot live in a constant state of hypervigilance, waiting for the inevitable moment when Sheila's mask slips. She is demanding that Finn step up, protect his family, and sever the toxic biological tie once and for all. Here is hoping, with every ounce of desperation, that Steffi is ultimately proven right. Because the terrifying reality is that Sheila Carter could always take one single step out of line. The sinister, obsessed psychopath is still alive and well beneath the surface of the reformed, grieving ex-wife. She is a ticking time bomb, and the timer is rapidly counting down to zero. If Sheila drops the facade for even a fraction of a second, Steffi's fears will be violently validated. However, the overwhelming support of her newly acquired allies Finn, Taylor, Deacon, and potentially the fiercely Finnegan would leave Sheila feeling absolutely invincible. Surrounded by advocates, Sheila would feel she has absolutely nothing to lose and only one person to blame for her remaining obstacles, Steffi Forrester Finnegan. If Sheila decides that Steffi is the only thing standing between her and her ultimate prize, the resulting explosion will destroy everything in its path. The war for the Cliff House has officially begun, and only one woman will walk away standing. Will Finn's blind faith destroy his marriage, or will Sheila's sinister mask finally slip? Share your boldest theories below and subscribe for more explosive updates.